Coming up in this episode,
Lance Armstrong went 5 or 6 tours without puncturing, without crashing and without puncturing. That's
not an accident.
That's not an accident. That's not coincidence.
and the logistics of Cobblestone Stages days are it's enormous for every team, and in some ways it's an arms race to who can pack out the sectors the most.
A lot of people who are road captains will only ever talk about the good decisions they make, but I tell you, I made a lot of bad ones. In the tour, we had to really, something the management and I had to oversee a bit, is to not use him to his full capability every day, because otherwise for 21 days you say, Quieto can do that. Yeah. We actually go, if you use him like that every day, after a week he's in a body bag.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wiggins, Olympic champion and the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France. I've been a professional cyclist for most of my life, and I take every element of my training and preparation seriously, so I understand the importance of finding the right sports nutrition products. For me, I only want the very best products, backed by science and trusted by the world's best athletes, which is why I've joined the team at Applied Nutrition. Whether it's their electrolyte tablets, isotonic energy gels, or recovery protein, Applied Nutrition products are designed to support cyclists across every stage of the ride. Every batch of their endurance range is tested for banned substances, making it a trusted choice for cyclists at all levels. Now, here's the good bit. I've got a special offer for Cafe Aficionado listeners. Use the code SIRBRAD30, that's SIRBRAD30 on your next order and you'll receive 30% off. So shop now on appliednutrition.uk and use the code SIRBRAD30, that's SIRBRAD30 for 30% off your next order. Fuel your moment with Applied Nutrition. So as always, I'm joined by Graham Wilgoss, my lead out man for today. Today's going to be a good one, Graham.
It is going to be a good one because it's the cobbles at the Tour de France. It can be a little bit of a thorny issue. Not everyone agrees with having cobble sectors, gravel sectors, borrowing from Paris-Roubaix in the Tour. But it's an important one given our guest today. Brad, you've never ridden, I don't think you've ever ridden any major cobbled sectors in a Grand Tour, but you have, of course, finished top 20 Paris-Roubaix. Top 10 Paris-Roubaix. Sorry, underselling you massively. What's it like to ride the cobbles? Because it does not look like it's a comfortable experience.
I mean, it's as brutal as it looks. And I think that's why it's such a spectacle and such captive viewing. You know, it is exactly like it looks. I think what's so beautiful about it is the roads haven't changed for 100 years. So the guys, back when Copy, Merckx and all these guys were doing the cobbles, those stretches are still the same, but the technology is different now. And I think that's what's so captivating about it.
I mean, technology would have been different, obviously huge difference from sort of early 20th century to the time when you were riding, but it's come on leaps and bounds again ever since. Is there any particular bit of tech that you wish you had when you were riding the cobbles that you could have done? I mean,
from a purely self-indulgent point of view, I mean, my era watching Paris-Roubaix was in the 90s. And in the 90s, all the riders were using the road-adapted RockShox suspension forks. And I just loved the way they looked. And I can remember Andre Schmil winning in 94 with the RockShox suspension forks, Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle in 92, 93. And then those kind of just disappeared. And 94, 95 onwards, the Mapai team dominated Paris-Roubaix, and the Carnago C40 became the bike to use on the cobbles. It was one of the first really sort of good carbon fiber bikes with straight forks, power forks they used to be called. And I always wanted to ride a C40. I never got to ride one. I've got a couple now, but Carnago C40 and the RockShox suspension forks, what I would have loved to have just used from a perfect, that era was kind of the era I fell in love with cycling.
Sure. It doesn't necessarily, well, you might tell me different. It's not necessarily your backside that hurts. It's just everywhere. Because I can remember, Fabian Cancellara talking about feeling like finishing Paris-Roubaix and feeling like he had the flu for the following week just because of the damage it does, the constant shocks and the vibrations going through your body.
That goes through your body, your hands and wrists. I can remember your finger joints, so your knuckles the next day because of the constant, bouncing together of your hands. It's one of those things. It's no matter what you do, whether people put two rolls of handlebar tape on, make them thicker in certain parts for more cushioning, rock shock suspension forks back in the 90s, the various sort of suspension stems and things we've seen in recent years, or, Bianchi trialled the bike with Johan Museeuw that had the suspension in the middle of the bike. I think whatever you do, ultimately, it's a cobbled stretch of road. These roads are built, 100 years ago, and they were built for farmers to get their carts between the fields. And they were never made for the type of bikes that we see in the Peloton now to go across these stretches. And I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and certainly weren't made for Grand Tours and not the Tour de France. Yeah. But, I myself, I love to see a cobbled sector or two in the Tour. Should we do the socials before we go any further?
Yes, so the socials are, just bear with me, I'm coming to my iPad for the correct socials. Let's do the socials. We'd love to hear what you all think. And hit follow on Cafe Aficionado wherever you get your pods. And watch us on YouTube, of course. And join us on all the usual social platforms at Sir Brad's Caf. Please come along and give us a follow, a hit, a like, whatever you like.
Whatever you like. Come and join us at the Caf. Can we get the lattes in?
Just literally do it. So very excited for today's episode, Graham. I'm really, really, really keen and interested to hear what Luke's got to say on these topics, because I know he is the best in the game at what he does.
Absolutely. So, with no further ado, really, let's get into it with a man who is so used to working on his team, expert, guiding himself across the cobbles. He's finished top 10 at Paris-Roubaix, guiding others across the cobbles in Grand Tours, whether it's smooth roads, bumps, hills, mountains. The man for the job is Luke Rowe.
Yeah. Luke, welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, mate. Yeah. Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Graham?
Well, Luke's fresh off the school run, so he's taken he's taken his skills herding riders in the bunch and put them to good use this morning. Luke, thanks for rushing back to be with us. We're going to get straight into it. We're on the cobbles today, Brad, as discussed. Cobbles in the Tour de France has been, since it's come back and sort of become more of a spectacle in recent years, controversial. We tend to fall one side of the fence or the other. You a fan?
I'm a fan of anything that brings a spectacle to the Tour de France. They're the worst ones to ride, but the best ones to watch. And it does add a little bit of spice to the Tour.
Yeah, I think purely from a sort of a neutral's point of view, certainly from a fan's point of view.
I think it's one of them, isn't it? If you gain time and you have a good day on the cobbles, it's a great stage and you're happy with its inclusion. If you're one of the ones who has the bad luck and loses time on that stage, then you're against having it in the race.
Luke, what do we think as the road captain extraordinaire for the most dominant team in modern history? Where do we stand on cobbles in the Tour de France?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a bit of a dinosaur here, but I'm against it.
I thought you might be.
That goes for gravel as well. I think I get what Brad's saying. If you're one of them teams that is on the front foot and you're taking time, you love it. But at the same time, that one day, as a fan, if I'm not racing, it's the best day of the Tour to watch. Yeah. I love it. But I think as a negative spin, what you could get is a guy preparing for the Tour de France for 3-6 months, giving everything he's got. The team's based around one rider, and the risk versus reward is just too high. So if he crashes out, they've lost it all. And also another negative is, like we've seen in whatever year it was, 17 or something, Richie Porte was absolutely flying. He joined BMC, he probably challenged through me for the victory. He crashed out and we got that one day of excitement. But what we got then is we missed Richie Porte for the last 2 weeks. And so I think what you get is you lose more than what you get. And it's too much of a risk for the big guys. And having seen what they go through, and Brad, all too well what you have to go through to win the Tour. I think to put the guys in that situation is too much of a risk. And I know I sound like a dinosaur.
Talk to us about 2015, your first Tour, and stage 4 in particular. 7 cobbled sectors, of which 6 came in the last 45 Ks. Late attack from Tony Martin after Nibali, as he always seemed to do, seemed to put the practice in and dominate on the cobbles and just kind of flew over the top of them, Vincenzo Nibali. As team captain, Luke, how did you approach guiding Chris Froome safely through?
I was absolutely useless that day. We did the national championships the week before, and it was in Lincoln. And I had this great idea I'd done a little ride, and I seen that after 4K it was open. crosswinds. I had this great idea to speak to a few of the guys and split it in the crosswinds. And it was one of the hardest one-day races I've ever done. Turn up to the Tour, and me, Stannard, Pete Kenner, we were all battered. We hadn't recovered. So it took me about a week to get into that Tour, and I was completely useless that day. It was one of the big reasons I've been selected for the Tour, having finished 8th in Roubaix that year. And there was a lot of responsibility, but I let the team down. I was useless, to be honest. So yeah, there was a bit of a shame. And since then, any Team Sky or Ineos rider selected for the Tour isn't allowed to ride the Nationals. So sorry for any riders who are in Team Ineos and can't ride the Nationals. I think I got a bit of a responsibility for that one. But yeah, I was useless.
It's your fault. That 2015 Paris-Roubaix, that's your last race for Team Sky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And Luke, as he's just mentioned there, very subtly got it in. He finished 8th.
He did, yeah.
You finished...
I can't remember where I was. I think I was 15th.
Top 20.
Yeah.
I think you were 15th.
Yeah, 15th.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But there was only me and Luke left because I think G had crashed, hadn't he? And
G crashed? No.
Yeah, and me and Luke were kind of the only ones left in what was the front of the race in what seemed like forever. You know, it was like 40K because it comes back together, goes away again, comes back together. And I remember Luke saying to me, "I'm dead. I've got nothing left. About 20K to go." And it just is the genius of Paris-Roubaix, you know. And I still felt I got better as the race went on because I was lagging behind because all the chaos that was happening and the yo-yoing effect. I wasn't really getting involved with that. And so I got caught behind the railway barrier when that went down, kept coming back. And then eventually I came back to the front of the race, having been yo-yoing off the back. And just as I got there, I thought, sorry, I'm going up the outside. I went straight up the outside. And just as I got to the front, there was a motorbike pulling away and we hit Cobbles section. So I attacked and I went off the front with 40K to go. And it seemed like a good move and it seemed like it was planned, but there was nothing planned about it. It was just, I was just my only chance to get to the front of the race. And then from there, from that last 40K to the finish, it just goes like that in a heartbeat. And, small groups keep reforming, coming back, people getting dropped. And I caught up with Luke at some point, about 20K to go. And so I asked how you were. And he said, I'm pretty dead. I've got nothing left. And so we just said, we'll just play our own race. And I attacked with, again, once that got caught and reformed, I attacked with 4K to go, I remember, on the downhill into Roubaix. And Sepp Van Mark kept chasing me down. I don't know, he was like shit to a blanket. Whatever I did, he'd chase me down. And the next one of the times he caught me and chased me down, Luke went straight over the top. And they let Luke go, and Luke finished 8th. So it's perfect. It worked out really well. So it just shows you how you can have bad legs and think that your race is over. And then, 4K to go, you're in a great move. And that's what Roubaix is like.
Turns out you had something left after all, Luke.
Yeah.
What was that like from your point of view? I mean, were you bluffing?
No, of course he won't.
No.
Doesn't know how to. Too honest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I should have? Looking back, if we have a conversation with 20K to go in Roubaix, and I say, yeah, I'm empty. Looking at it now, you back yourself. Everyone's empty, but it's just my first Roubaix that I was even in the mix.
I think that was it. Yeah, that was your early years. And after that, I remember thinking at the finish, it's only a matter of time before Luke wins this race because I was so impressed with him. Yeah,
it's unusual. Sorry, Luke.
Well, I just remember with Brad, the big focus was. I remember Bernie said it like 100 times, and he was right. And our focus with Brad was, if Brad can get a gap, he's going to have 20 motorbikes circling around him, the press, the photographers, the TV footage, but it's just getting that gap. So there was two big things. Firstly, like Roubaix's got a tipping point where it's like a ship fight, and then a lot of riders get dropped, and then it becomes more physical. So it's like a balance. So to get him past the ship fight into the physical thing, and then his legs would take care of himself. Yeah. So that was the big thing we had to get Brad through. And then as soon as that balance happened, which is usually, post Arenberg 80K to go, then it was just, as soon as you get an opportunity, take it. Because if you get 10, 20 seconds, it's a hard man to catch. But like you said, there's too many guys, shit to a blanket.
Yeah.
You feel the pressure that day?
In different ways, I think. I think you create your own pressure, but whatever state you go into Roubaix, there's pressure. It's like a race like no other. And as Luke said, it all centered around Arenberg for me. And I had the best team. I just stayed with these guys. And we went into the forest first, Bernie on the front, Luke and those guys. And that was it. It was, that's the pivotal part of the race is Arenberg. Once you come out of Arenberg, it seems like you've kind of the monkey's off your back.
Yeah,
because before that, there's so many riders still there that are able to challenge, and But yeah, it was.
Just give us a quick overview of what riding the Arenberg Trench is like and why it's such a famous part of
Well, it depends where you go into Arenberg, what position you go in. If you go in halfway down, then you're at the mercy of people crashing, puncturing, having problems, switching left and right on the cobbles, trying to find the smoothest line, and it's just a shit fight. Bottles bouncing everywhere out of cages, and which is why everyone tries to get into it first.
And if people don't know what it's like, it's worth going and finding out online and just having a look at, just how much chaos you can see, and go and find a clip on YouTube. Luke, from your point of view, it's unusual for, I know this is slightly earlier in your Team Sky career, but it's unusual for someone who is such an important part of a Grand Tour team, and particularly for the Tour de France, to be given license to go and ride a race like Roubaix because of all of the dangers and the unpredictability that could put you out for the most important part of your season.
Yeah, I certainly disagree, really. I think a lot of the guys who play that role within you have a maker of the team, you have the climbers, the mid climbers, and you have the flat helpers, or whatever you want to call it, which I was. I think a majority of them guys are actually come from the classics. If you look at, them Tour de France's when I was there, and probably the last Tour de France's at Brad, the guys who played that role, Mickey Shah, Berghardt, Stefan Kung, Oliver Nason, these guys who were working for their respective leaders, all rode the classics. So I think that's the type of mold of rider you need, and I think we'll move on to it later. But like with the positioning in the peloton, guiding a leader through them chaotic days at the Tour, I think you earn all that, and a lot of that comes from racing the classics. So yeah, not many riders would ride, the classics and the Tour de France, but within that category of rider that I was in the Tour de France, I think actually they just worked hand in hand. That what you get from the classics, you take it into the Tour, and it makes that role easier. But of course there's risk involved with it, and of course you couldn't crash in Paris-Roubaix, as we see many riders do and miss the Tour de France. But you can't wrap yourself up in cotton wool too much.
Just on the sort of rider that you were, did you find from a sort of psychological point of view that you could get more out of yourself riding for other people than you could riding for yourself?
I'd like to think back and think whether I was riding for myself or a big leader or a small leader, big race, small race. I'd like to think I was one of them guys who committed whatever it was. And it's actually something we looked at towards the last few years at Team Sky and Team Ineos. I just came up with it like no small race mentality, where you have riders come in and they go, oh, it's a small race, they don't really care. And then they go to the big race and you see them step up and they're incredible riders, where try and treat every race as if it's a big race, because they are in their own rights. They might be one of the smaller races on our calendar, but every pro race we do is big. So no, I'd like to think, whether it was a big race or a small race or whatever situation I was in, I would always give my best to the team or to the leader or myself if the chance arose.
So let's bounce on to the 2018 Tour, and in particular the carnage on stage 9 that year. 4 riders taken out over the space of 4 crashes. Richie Porte went on to DNF. Both Froome and G went down. Another GC contender, Michael Landa, crashed. G eventually finished, I think, 27 minutes down that day. 27 seconds down, sorry, but moved up to second on GC. When you're approaching a stage like that, how far out do you start looking at it and start thinking, this is how we're going to tackle it?
Well, when the routes announced in October of the previous year, there is a kind of textbook now for cobbled stages, and riders, teams will know what bikes they're going to use and what wheels they're going to use, what tyre setup they're going to use. You basically adopt the Paris-Roubaix setup and have any man and his dog with a T-shirt on from your team on every sector and try and cover as many bases as possible. And the logistics of cobblestone stages days are it's enormous for every team, and in some ways it's an arms race to who can pack out the sectors the most with the most bodies and personnel and friends of the team, and as many wheels as you can muster out the service course with the right tyres on. So it's a hell of a day from a logistical point of view, and that alone is enough for any team when you're away for 3 weeks anyway with a truck full of bikes. So it's it starts in the October when it's announced.
Luke, your last tour, 2022, that was the last time Cobbles featured in the tour. One of the most decisive stages that year, stage 11, Jumbo-Visma used both Roglic and Jonas Vingegaard to counter Poggy's dominance, Tadej Pogacar's dominance from 2022. But we saw them both crash at various stages. Primoz dislocated his shoulder. Stuff like that, it kind of underlines Luke's point that, for the sake of a lapse of concentration over the space of a few hundred meters and someone's tour.
I kind of feel like that's the case with any tour stage now, though, the way it's raced. I mean, we saw G, didn't we? The year G won the prologue. A week later, he broke his collarbone on just a normal bend. Were you there that day? Would you?
Yeah, he was.
You were right behind him, weren't you?
5 wheels behind him when he went down.
Yeah.
I think it was. Oh, who was it? Might have been. I don't want to throw someone under the bus. I'm 100%. Might have been. No, don't know. Someone crashed in front of him. He went over the top, and I was 5 wheels behind him. Stopped with him. You're right, G. You're right, G. And you know how tough G is. If he doesn't get back up, he's hurt because he's one of the toughest buggers out there. And he was like, just go. So it's all right. See you later, mates. And next time I seen him was on the bus at the finish line in the sling. But yeah, I mean, I think Brad's spot on. Any the stress level is so high, and it's getting more and more and more. All the DSs are going to know that. There'll be GC leaders, already panicking. And when they clip in and start the Tour de France, that nervous energy just echoes through the whole peloton. And any rider, their Tour de France could be over at any moment in the 3 weeks.
Does it all go into sort of slow motion, Luke, when you're among the carnage on the cobbles?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think I don't know, I just think that when you have good legs in general, you make right decisions and you're in the right place, you crash less often, you puncture less often. For me, it's the first guys down, the guys who are often crashing, they're in the wrong position because they haven't got the legs. They're trying to make up positions to make up for that. The more fatigued you are, the less concentrated you are. So I always found when he had good legs, which was definitely not all the time. When you had good legs, things just went well for you. I think there's a crazy stat. I don't know if it's right or not. Lance Armstrong went 5 or 6 tours without puncturing, without crashing, and without puncturing. That's
not an accident.
That's not an accident. That's not coincidence. And you say, if a guy crashes once, you can say, I was caught behind a crash, it was unlucky. But you have these notorious crashes, and it's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's being in the right place at the right time and having the skill. And you look at Lance as an example. He had the team, he had the skill, and he had the good legs. So I think if you're good things happen.
And how do you go about being good on the cobbles? How do you make sure you're in the right place at the right time? I'm saying, as you're approaching a sector, do you make sure that your team are all behind you? Are you kind of shepherding them, Luke, and saying, all right, guys, we've got 2 kilometers until the next sector. This is where I need you to be. Are you screaming at your teammates on the roads in the bunch? Talk me through it.
I think it changes from race to race. I think the first thing we can say is that cobbles in a Grand Tour, Tour de France, are chalk and cheese from cobbles in Paris-Roubaix. I mean, they're the same physical cobbles, but the way they're raced and the way a team will approach it, chalk and cheese. I think the first thing you have to know the parcours. So, Roubaix, it would be through prior experience. So on a Grand Tour, you have to do the recon, you have to know the entry to the sections. And then, you said about the 2018 Tour de France with Froome, and Kwiato was with G and I was with Froome. We kind of split the team because to move as a whole unit was tough. And actually, before the first section, I just accepted defeat and said, Froome, just back off. Like, he was sideways, his back wheel was in front of his front wheel, and I was thinking, to win the Tour, you've got to get to Paris first, right? And 5K before the section said, just back off. If we enter in 100th place, we enter in 100th place, but let's enter on our bike. So it's making decisions like that as well. I think a good DS is key. On a long mountain stage, you kind of know what you got to do. It's quite, you got to have a mountain at 20k an hour. You're using your troops, whatever, but on a cobble stage, that information through the radio is key. So yeah, there's a lot of factors, and I think knowing when to take that risk and knowing when not to. It's a lot of you're constantly making small calculated risks, analyzing others, the Peloton, the wind, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And then I think, one last thing is, if I was with Froome or whoever your position, you're with your leader, you enter the section, you lead them in a good position, hopefully. Instantly, as soon as you enter that section, you should drop behind them. So my leader is in front of me. I can see him. If he has a puncture, I can see directly he has a puncture. If he has a crash, I see it directly. If it's behind, you might miss it. The radio is terrible. There's lots of noise. So you lead them on, and then directly you go behind them.
Does Froome always listen to you when you? So going back to you saying, I mean, I'm guessing the answer is probably no, but going back to you saying to him, look, just back it off.
No, yeah, he did. I think we had a great working relationship, and I think this is, as a row captain, something. Once you got the trust and full belief and commitment of the rider, it's a piece of piss. But getting that is hard, and you can also lose it very quickly. But once you got their full buy-in, it became quite easy, and you get that buy-in through, not being the loudest guy in the room, but actions speak louder than words. So you go into a race, you do a good job. You go into the next race, you do a good job, and people take notice. They buy in, they commit, and they'll follow you through any gap because they trust you. But so I think with Froome, he would respect and listen to my judgment and my calls. Not that they were always right. I made a lot of mistakes, but as long as you're making more right than you are wrong, you're doing something right.
That was one of the things I remember about Luke, even from a young age when he joined Team Sky. There was a calmness and an assertiveness about the things he would say and make decisions like he just said there with Chris Froome. And I think Froome, and certainly myself and any team leader, when you're in a stressful situation like that, there's something comforting in someone who's got a sort of calmness about them and an assertive and a confidence in what they're saying, that this is the right thing to do. And I think that was one of Luke's biggest assets. And you were like that from a young age. Soon you're Neo Pro. I remember you sort of, when we did the Tour of Britain in 2012, you were kind of road captain almost then, and Cav had yellow, and that was one of the things I remember the most about Luke is there was a wise head on a very young pair of shoulders.
Luke, first person to tell you that? I'm thinking probably not.
No, that's very kind words. Appreciate it. I mean, I think, I don't try and mold myself into something I'm not, but I try to, just be myself, I guess. I think, it's not easy, but I think, just kind of back your decisions, I guess, isn't it? And have accountability, I think, is a big thing, because, as a lot of people who are road captains will only ever talk about the good decisions they make, but I tell you, I made a lot of bad ones, and it's easy to walk on and get the praise and say, we made a great call, or that was me. But at the same time, if it all goes tits up, it's like, that was also me. Sorry, boys. And accountability, I think, is a big one. But it's just something that, I don't know, I found a bit of a niche and stuck with it.
When you were in the under-23, Luke, I mean, I don't think people realise just how good that academy year you were in. You had the Yates brothers, didn't you? Was you already adopting that role with those guys in all the under-23 races? Because you rode the under-23 Worlds in Copenhagen, didn't you?
Yeah, I was there. Andy Fenn was third in that race.
Fenn, yeah. God, he got a Worlds medal, Andy Fenn, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, if I remember him. Yeah.
Demar won it, and Adrian Petit was second. Yeah. But I think subconsciously it was a role that I was taking on. And at the under-23 races, we didn't have road captains. It wasn't a term or something I knew existed. But I think subconsciously also on the academy, you're just you need a doer. Everyone says, "Oh, let's go to the cinema." You need someone to go and check the times and say what bus we're getting. You need a doer. We're going to the pub, right? Which pub? What time? So I think it was, I was a bit the doer. You would get things rolling. And then when we went into the races, I guess, I did. I was the road captain, even though it wasn't a role on paper or anything that I even knew I was doing. But definitely among the guys on the academy. And it was, I was fortunate to be, because we had an incredible batch of riders through them 3 years that I was on the academy.
Yeah, I mean, even when we used to go training on those rides in between Flanders and Roubaix, you would always decide the route and what cafe we were going to.
It would all be based around the cafe.
You basically led
Most
the
important
team.
thing.
What time are we eating? Let's eat at 7:30. What do we want to eat? Do we want a light snack or a heavy meal? Luke would be like, it's funny how you adopt that role on every. Yeah.
But it's nice if someone's making the decision for you.
Yeah.
You can just concentrate on having a bit of fun with
Yeah.
it. One word answers from you, please, gents. Best rider on the cobbles, and we'll do Ultimate Cyclist a little later on. But best rider on the cobbles. This isn't the category for today. Best rider on the Game of Stones. Game of Stones you've ever ridden with or ever seen.
I mean, when I was a kid, obviously, I used to love watching Franco Ballerini on the cobbles. I never raced with him, but I did race with Johan Museo. And his style, over the back of the saddle, massive gear, and so Johan for me.
I rode with Museo on the cobbles.
But also Tom Boonen as well. I mean, Boonen had a really, really sort of, I wouldn't say unorthodox style, but he didn't look smooth when he was riding the cobbles. And every body action, every part of his body that was moving, everything told you that he shouldn't be moving this quick across the cobbles the way he rode. But it worked, and he was amazing to watch, Yeah.
Luke, what about you?
Brad just stole my answer. For me, it was Tom Boonen. I guess because I was lucky enough to race with him. I guess it was because I was a fan of him as well. I think we're all, even when you're riding and you're racing other people, and at that time we're trying to beat the guy, you can still be a fan of him. Deep down, I had a lot of admiration for him. And like you say, the way he rode the cobbles, I think what I really respected about him, and you don't even know whilst racing him, is he was always calm. He would, I was there first, second year pro, and he would say hello. He'd give you the time of day, and that's something that stuck with me. So for me, and he was class as well, wasn't he? The way he would race, he'd just put his balls on the line, but also to look at, him in that world champs jersey, it was just iconic. So for me, Tom was the full package.
How many times did you win Paris-Roubaix?
Four.
Four.
Just missed out on the fifth, didn't he, with Matt Heyman?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So as a pro rider, Graham, spent lots of my time training out on the open roads. It's fair to say I had my fair few run-ins with cars and a few accidents. One in particular I can remember was the Tour de France champion, 2012, heading out locally on the roads in Lancashire and got hit by a van that was coming out of a petrol station.
Like a lot of us, it can be impossible to avoid.
So there are always risks riding your bike out on the open road, and that's where our sponsors come in, CAMS. Cycling Accident Management Services help cyclists get back on the road, whether you're a pro rider, a weekend cyclist or a commuter. They work with local cycle shops to provide quick and hassle-free bike and helmet replacement, and they provide full legal services for any claim you might need to make. And if you've been injured, CAMS will help with all the rehab, including physiotherapy and psychological support to get you back on the bike. But what I love most about CAMS is that they are for cyclists by cyclists. They support the cycling community through partnerships with cycling events, pro athletes and men's and women's junior cycling teams. To find out more information about CAMS and other road traffic accident claims, visit the CAMS website or click the link in the show notes. So welcome back to Cafe Aficionado. Luke Rowe is with us, and of course, as always, Graham. Graham, give us some more history of the cobbles.
All right, 2004, we're going to go back to. Luke mentioned the fact that Lance rode the cobbles so many times and never once crashed, never once punctured, and that was by design more than it was accident. Iban Mayo was the most famous casualty of the Lance era in 2004, crashing, finishing almost 4 minutes down. Obviously hampered his, all but destroyed his GC hopes in the first week. The classic thing of you can't win the Tour on the cobbles, but you can, of course, lose them. The US Postal Team kept Lance safe in the bunch, finishing with no time loss to any of his main contenders to set up his 6th consecutive Tour de France, or not, depending on, as he would say, depending on what you read or who you listen to. Do we know what Lance thought of the cobbles? Ever talked about it with him?
No.
What do we think, Lance?
I think, like anything, they would dissect the route the year before when it was announced and train to the demands of it.
Yeah.
So they would put a team around. I remember that year, I think they had Pavel Padranos, who was a big Czech rider who they took to the Tour just for that. Of course, Hincapie was, ever present in Paris-Roubaix, so was an easy one on the team start sheet.
Yeah, George was right up there one year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A really wet, muddy year. Finished
In Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah, absolutely covered.
That was Boone and Neo Pro finished
third.
third.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
George went down the ditch, didn't he?
Yeah. George fell in the ditch. He was exhausted and hunger flat.
Great memory. Luke, do you have to tailor your leadership to your riders on the road, to the team that you have with you?
Yeah, definitely. Every different leader has got their own characteristics, way of riding, skill set. An example of that is I'd work with, Brad, Froome, G, Bernal, and then Adam Yates comes to the team, who's notorious for riding down the back, and Teams Sky and Ineos were notorious riding in the front. And when he comes, it was a conscious decision, like how do you deal with this? Because and my way of thinking was if he rides this way and the team ride this way, to do this doesn't work, to do this doesn't work, you got to meet in the middle. So yeah, it was just, I think the first race was Abu Dhabi, UAE, whatever it's called, and there was crosswinds, and I just spoke to him before the race. I said, right, mate, I'm not going to say we have to ride in the front all day, but we also can't ride in the back all day. Let's meet in the middle. So let's chill out, let's relax, let's sit at the back. But when I say it's game time and we got to move, just move, just commit. And he was brilliant. And we just found, a hybrid of the two ways of riding. And I try and keep him completely relaxed. The second we could sit at the back and ride stress-free, right, Yatesy, let's chill out, mate. Let's get a can of Coke and go to the back and chill out. And then you had other riders who would just be, with Froome in the Tour was super nervous. You could be in 10th place and you say, can I move up to 5th? And everyone's got their own demands and everyone's got their own skill set, and it can't all come from me, and it shouldn't come from me. They're their own people. They've got their own way of riding, and if you try and push someone to ride how they don't want to ride for 3 weeks, it's not going to work.
What did you used to ask of your road captain, Brad?
Not much really. I was a bit like a Labrador. I entrusted whoever I had around me. So my year was Bernie and Christian. Christian Nice was, again, he was the only rider who was taller than me as well. So wherever we were, I would get shelter off him. And Christian was imposing. Christian could get through any gap because he'd push his way through, and he could also climb for a big guy. So Christian, he didn't have the biggest turn of speed. He was a bit like a diesel, but he would go all day sitting in a crosswind for you. And the other one was Bernard Eisel, but Bernard in 2012 was mainly Cavs guy. But wherever those two guys were, you knew as soon as you see them, you knew that you're in a safe place.
I think Bernie was another one of those riders who could get more out himself if he was riding in the service of other people. Yeah. But obviously a fantastic rider in his own right.
The thing when you were around people like Bernie was you could switch off as a leader.
Yeah.
And you could fully entrust, I just have 10 minutes off in my head. And you knew that when Bernie said, as Luke said, we got to go now, we're too far back or whatever, you could entrust it because they never switched off, these guys. They were always thinking about where we're turning left in a bit, we're turning right. The wind's now changed a little bit from what was planned. And they're the greatest people to ride with.
And sorry, Neasy. I think back, and I think he's one guy who never got the credit he deserved in his career. Yeah. Like he'd have gone to that tour and it would have been Bernie road captain and Neasy helping. Yeah. But still, like if I wrote a dream team of 8 guys for the Tour de France, I'd taken that. And not only because the way he was physically, like name me a more loyal person. Yeah. You'll struggle. Struggle.
No, he was phenomenal. I'm indebted to him. I mean, that year we did the Tourmalet. He was the first over the Tourmalet, 83 kilos, and he's riding on the front. Huge unit, and he'd finished top 20 in the Tour as well in 2009. Yeah, it's quite an effort from a big lad.
Luke, did anyone ever flat out refuse to follow the instruction you gave them? And if they did, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, there was some people which were harder and easier to work with. Like with Ethan Hayter, I struggled, mate. I struggled, and I think, what was painful there is you could see how good he was. Like his physically is incredible, but he wouldn't buy in, he wouldn't commit, he wouldn't get out of his way of riding. And I hope he achieves everything he can in his career, but I think it's gonna hamper him. Another one I got close to it not working with, but it did in the end, was Rowe and Dennis. We had a shouting match in Tour de Suisse one year. We had a moment where he was shouting at me, but then after the finish, we calmed it down and smoothed it over, and we managed to work it out. But yeah, of course, there's characters who not everyone's going to get on, and it's also, it's learning to accept you're not going to get on with everyone. Not everyone can be your mate, and sometimes you can be friends, and sometimes you got to think, right, this is a job, this is business. We're a professional sports team.
You ever have a massive Barney with anyone on the road?
Not that I can remember off the top of my head. But most of the time as a leader, when you were leading a race, your teammates would step in before that happened if there was something that warranted having a Barney. And most of the time in 2012, that was Cav, because whatever job we were doing as a team on the front for the yellow jersey, it normally involved being there for a sprint purpose as well. So.
Always been a massive ally for you, hasn't he?
Cav?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Luke, what was your relationship like with Cav? You didn't ride with him much on the road, did you? But there might have been a couple of Team GB.
Well, 2012
efforts.
Tour of Britain, we did the lead out for Cav, and Cav
Of course.
Yeah, I was only rode with Cav for 1 year, and that was 2012. And then, some European championships, some world championships. But no, I've still got a really good relationship with Cav. I think, I think Cav looks at people like Marmite. You're either in or you're out. And if you could, however good to him you are, you'll get it back. I know, I got a lot of time for Cav. Lovely bloke.
A couple of years pre-2012, then 2010, just to get us back on the history trail. The Battle of the Schlecks on stage 3 of the Tour that year, 7 cobbled sectors, 26 kilometres to go. There was a crash that took out Alberto Contador, Frank Schleck, David Miller, among others. Frank abandoned the Tour, but his brother Andy was then guided home by Fabian Cancellara, few better at riding the cobbles than Spartacus, of course. 2010, you would have pulled up 53 seconds from the back of the winning group. Yeah. What are your memories of that year?
I remember that big crash coming to the corner, and then it was just chaos from there. And you're going from group to group, and reforming, and that was a good day for us that day. Yeah, I mean, we finished in the second group.
And are you aware of what's ahead before you see it? Because radio quality isn't always.
I remember. You have all these plans going into it that they're going to give you updates on the radio, and information's just scarce. It's just it's chaos, and no one really knows what's going on. But you're aware of where you're on the road, and you're looking around you to see who's there. I think I was with Armstrong and a few others, so I was in good company.
Luke, it's a bit of a misconception that if you're watching on TV like me and you think you're kind of you're so in control of what's going on the road because you know exactly what's happening thanks to having your team radios, but your team radio isn't always massively reliable given that you can be going through the mountains and it can be pretty patchy at times, no?
Yeah, I think that's quite a misconception of a lot of people who watch cycling, is that the communication is good. It's terrible. It's still terrible. It's crackly, you're in and out of signal. Car to rider is usually pretty good. You got good range. But rider to car and rider to rider is often terrible. So, like Brad said, in the midst of when you add cobbles and fans and crashes and punctures in that, often you don't know where you are. And sometimes you'll see a rider and they're in the second group and they've got a teammate in the front and they'll be riding. And someone will sit at home and say, what are they doing? They're chasing their teammate. Some of the times they're just selfish. But sometimes genuinely they have no idea. And I think unless you've raced a race and had a radio in your ear, it's pretty poor. And now stepping on the other side of the fence as a DS, you hear the radio open, it comes through, and you and the mechanic look at each other. Do you get that? No. And the TV footage is delayed. Radio talk can be in different languages, and some are good, some are terrible. So communication isn't good.
2014. I don't know how good the communication was here, but one of the most famous images from the 2014 Tour on the cobbles was Vincenzo Nibali absolutely skimming across the top. It was like he was kind of floating across the top, right through the middle. And that was the year that Freemy had already crashed out and went down again on the cobbles.
I didn't ride that Tour.
Sure,
yeah, but I remember watching it. I'd finished 9th in Roubaix that year, and I'd missed that Tour, and it's when I think back, one of the reasons I didn't go to the Tour was obviously my relationship with Froome at that time was pretty fractious. And
we went to California instead, didn't we?
Yeah, you came to California, didn't you?
Yeah,
I forgot you were in that
it,
team. Yeah, I forgot Luke was in that team when I went to California.
You won it,
Yeah. What a great race that was.
But that was a big goal for the 21st Century Fox as well, wasn't it?
Yes,
It was a big goal for the team.
We had Josh Edmondson, remember?
Yeah, Boswell,
Dombrowski, yeah.
Danny Pate.
Yeah. That tour, I was hoping to go to that tour to ride in the service of Chris Froome. That was my way of repaying and saying sorry for the other year. And I wanted to be part of a winning team with him at the helm. But the trust wasn't there, and I don't know what happened, but so I got told I wasn't going. So I watched it with, watched a rainy stage, cobbled stage in the Tour de France, and kind of glad I wasn't there watching the carnage. But at the same time, maybe thinking I could have played a part, or, Froome crashed out anyway when I would have waited for him. But it was what it was.
Luke, on that front, when you've got that kind of relationship in the team, how do you deal with it? And how do you kind of influence the rest of the team to think about it? Or are you kind of like, look, okay, management's going to deal with that and we're just going to stay out of it? Or as someone who has got that kind of, as we talked about already, that kind of calm mentality a lot of people listen to, do you try and sort of step in quietly, have a word here and there?
You mean when you have multiple leaders?
Exactly that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think essentially it's on the management to firstly select the right team and manage the situation, which and my job is to deal with it on the road and make the decisions on the road. And there are, of course, there's a few times where you had two leaders and there is decisions and management on the road. Froome and G in the Tour in 2018. That was one that springs to mind. But I think what made that a bit easier is, no disrespect to Froome, but the strongest man won the Tour de France. And the door was open for Froome to race, but G he knew he was the best. So that the legs done the talking really there. I think Froome handled it quite well and accepted it, and G was just the consummate professional like he is, and he had so much confidence in himself that at the end of the day, if you're the strongest in the Tour de France, your team help, but if you're the strongest, unless something happens, you're probably going to win. So no, but in general, it's for management. It's I'm just a rider, road captain or not, you're just a rider.
And at that point for you, Luke, were you kind of set in this was your role now? This was always going to be the role that you would perform, or did you still have ambitions of there were races I'd still like to win for myself here?
No, quite. It was actually a conscious decision quite early on in my career. Like I turned pro, first year pro was 2012, and of course you turn pro and you want to win races. That's how you see yourself. That's what you've done as a junior under 23, and you want to continue that trend. But after a couple of years, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and realized that, it was going to be hard to win a race, and unless Brad was prepared to crash and take the peloton out, it was going to be hard to win races, And then it was kind of like, well, how am I going to stay in this sport and be of value? And for 10, 15 years, and a lot of the characteristics of a road captain I felt I had. But then I said, right, if you're going to go in the role of a road captain, then I want to be the best road captain in the world. That was my goal. I'm not saying I got there. I think at times I might have got close, but it was a conscious decision to go down that route. And that's where Sky was pretty much the perfect team, because if you want to do that role to the best of the ability, you also want to do it in the biggest race and win the biggest race. And the door opened for me there. But then at the same time, in the classics, we lacked leaders. There was a few years there where it was me and Ian Stannard, and before Moscon and others, Pidcock and Kwiato came along, where, I wasn't a leader in a cobble race. I wasn't at the level to be a leader, but I still had the chance. So for me, it was the perfect team where I had a bit of a door open in the classics, and then you go to the biggest races in the world and you win it.
It's almost like the decision, if you're a professional footballer, I'm going to focus on being a defensive centre mid or right back.
I almost think Luke fell into that role from a young age, because everyone could see his potential and his ability. And by, like I said, when he finished 8th in Paris-Roubaix, I thought the next few years, if he dedicated his life to this, he's going to win this race. But by then, he already became such an asset to July and the Tour team that he was first on the Tour star sheet every year. So that you kind of forge your own role, you kind of get... So I think that was kind of... I don't think he almost made the decision to go down that route. It was kind of ingrained and embedded from day one.
Luke, you should write a book about this.
There we go. Right, I can plug my book.
He has.
Yeah, I've just went on sale a month or so ago, and
What's it called?
Road Captain. So the way it came about was I finished my career, got approached to want to write a book. I said no. I didn't want to do the stereotypical, an athlete has a career, retires, writes a book about themselves. I just didn't want to do it. And in my vision, it was like, people who write books should be the superstars of the sport. And I was like, no. And they came back a week later and they said, do you want to write a book about the role of road captaincy? And I kind of thought, well, yeah, that kind of appeals to me, because I think it's a role that, you say to someone who watches the tour next week, road captain, do you know what it is? Yeah. But do they actually know what it is? No clue. The intricate details of the Peloton, the role of the road captain on and off the bike. And I said, yeah, let's go for it. And to me also, it's nice. I got 2 boys. They're 4 and 6 now. For sure, they're gonna have no clue about what I did in my career, and they just see me in the house. They don't know about me as a rider, and that's kind of, I can give that to them when they're of age, when they can read 10, 12. What I don't know what age kids read these days, but give that to them, and you can go, right, that's a little bit about me, boys. So yeah.
My Life at the Heart. So Road Captain, My Life at the Heart of the Peloton by Luke Rowe. We should get it on the
we'll get it on
coffee table here at Cafe Aficionado.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we'll send you one over. Lovely.
Should we do the Ultimate Cyclist?
Let's do
Feels like it's time. Do you want to explain for Luke, just in case he's not been listening to Cafe Aficionado, what the Ultimate Cyclist entails?
Traits of riders, character traits, that make up, this old. Oh, God, you don't. You explain it. I don't even know what it is. You do it, Graham. Let me ask you that question, Graham, because I still don't understand it. Right.
Right. I don't care. I just tune out when you start talking about this shit.
No, but you explain things better than me. I'm just here for shits and giggles. So, Graham, do you want to explain the Ultimate Rider to Luke?
I'd love to. I'd like nothing more. Luke, in case...
Explain it to me as well.
Yes, just in case either of you haven't been listening to the episodes that we've done to date. Luke, the Ultimate Rider for Cafe Aficionado is a collection of the finest exponents of any particular characteristic. So, for example, for climbing, we picked Marco Pantani. For panache, we picked Julian Alaphilippe. Who else have we had? Oh, for heart. So for the man with the biggest heart in the history of the Peloton, you won't be surprised to know that we picked Geraint Thomas. So
what's today's then, Graham?
On that note, we're going for, as a nod to Luke's expertise, we're going for bunch skills. Luke, I'm going to come to you first as our guest. Who is in your back pocket, mate?
Right, 60 seconds. Here we go. Mikhail Kwiatkowski. There's only one guy. I don't think anyone else challenges him. The reason being, he's a Swiss Army knife. So I think you can think of positioning, and you can think of coming into a flat finish, that 3K rule, all this jazz. He can do that. You can think of entering a cobble section. He can do that. But also what Kwiato has in his locker is he can pass climbs that all the other guys who can do that role, he can outclimb them and do a job later on in the race. So, there might be, entering a section with 50K to go, but it's after a category 1 climb. Kwiato will be there. Positioning also comes to your recon, your homework, knowing the roads. He's second to none. He puts in the work. He does the homework. He does the recons. He can go through any gap. He'll make room for you. He can organize a team. Kwiato's my man.
That's interesting, because I never really raced with Kwiato other than towards the end of my time, really. Tour of Britain when he won that, I can remember in particular. But yeah, that's an interesting one, that, because you wouldn't get that impression with him, because he's a very smooth, kind of smooth character. My choice is someone who's kind of much ticks all the same boxes as Luke was talking about there, but you notice him doing it, was Peter Sagan. Peter Sagan, if you had to get him to the front of any climb, any corner, any bend, he would be there. But at times he would rub people up the wrong way, because the trail of destruction he would leave behind him in getting to that position, because he would go for any gap, whether it was open or not, and would normally come out best of the two going in for that gap. So Peter Sagan for me. You know, because also don't forget in his prime when he was in the green jersey, if there was points available on sprints over the first 2 climbs a day, he would be in the break, you know, guaranteed, and then have sliding space and slide back. If he wasn't in the break, he'd get there on the descent. I mean, he's phenomenal like that. Peter Sagan, prime Peter Sagan. Tell me, how good was prime Peter Sagan? That's a meme in itself.
There's that lovely clip of Sagan and Caleb Ewan where there's a little space just in front of Sagan, and he sort of gives Caleb a little nudge and just goes, "There you go, mate." So he didn't always. He could also be incredibly polite, but it was a moment you actually don't often see.
Peter was another one of them as well. If he respected you and he saw you there, he would tend to give you a bit of space. If he didn't, you were on the floor.
Yeah.
You know? What do you make of Peter Sagan, Luke? Anyway, just your experiences of racing with him, because obviously you came together.
Yeah, I think very much like you say, he was a classy guy. He had a lot of respect within the peloton, not just from his Palmares, but the way he treated others. I think he got whilst on the topic of positioning, I think he could find his way through the peloton because people were aware of who he is, how big of a name he was, and he was always there for a reason.
Wasn't he? He was a unit.
He's a weapon. You know, weapon.
He had that elbow that stuck out, that knee that went out that way, and so he would just get through like he was riding a BMX somehow.
I love what you're doing as well. I can see exactly what you're doing, which is talking Luke into, and me for that matter.
There we go.
into choosing your pick.
I've got one argument why mine is better.
Go on.
So, Peter Sagan and Kwiato are very similar in their package, agreed. But what Kwiato had that I think Sagan maybe didn't is that Kwiato knew how to use them tools for a leader as well. So he could do it himself. He could get himself in the position here, there, wherever.
I'd agree.
But also you throw him in the biggest bike race in the world and you say, position that rider at that kilometer in the front. He could also do that. Whether Sagan could or couldn't, I don't know.
No,
maybe we don't know because he never had that role.
Now. But I think that's a great one. And they actually came together quite a few times, both world champion. Milan-San Remo in particular, I think of when he beat him.
Sure, so, yeah.
So let's get into Kwiato.
Let's how they come to the line, the two of them.
If nothing else, Luke's respect for the game as well, because you see the way he sped up his answer. So 60 seconds, right? I'm into it. Yeah. Okay, because I think we're all in agreement at this point. It's got to be Mikhail Kwiatkowski.
I hadn't thought of him. So yeah,
Kwiato it is.
Kwiato, congratulations.
Kwiato, the Swiss Army knife we call him, because anything you do, Kwiato can do that. Kwiato can do that. And actually, in the tour, we had to really, something the management and I had to oversee a bit is to not use him to his full capability every day. Because otherwise, for 21 days, you say, Kwiato can do that.
Yeah.
We actually go, if you use him like that every day, after a week, he's in a body bag. So he was so good that he was an asset every single day.
Bunch skills, Mikhail Kwiatkowski, welcome to the Ultimate Cyclist. And let us know if you agree with us. If you don't agree with us, should it have been Peter Sagan for the Ultimate Cyclist? We are on Instagram at Sabran's Cafe. Come and check us out.
Luke, just quickly, you're now DS. What's that like? What's that experience been like so far for you in your first year of doing that?
Yeah, so I'm DS with Decathlon AG2R. I think anyone who's been in the sport a long time will know it as AG2R. Yeah, it's a big change. I think obviously change a team, change a role. Language there's still a slight barrier there, but I'm getting there, and it's going more towards English for sure. But it's I love it, honestly. I was speaking to my wife before I took the job, and I said, I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll leave. If it's not for me, I'm not, just doing it for years for the sake of it. But no, I love it, and I think it's a whole new job, it's a whole new world. Okay, you can carry across a lot, but there's I had to do enrollment forms the other week and all stuff like this, and the amount of time on a laptop is quite mind blowing. But to really go and prepare and go up to a race, and if a rider says, "What's the climb like on stage 7?" Bam, you got to know the answer. So don't do your homework, you're gonna fail. But it's no, I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. It's something I'm quite passionate about.
What's the one thing, if anything, that you've taken from, and I assume there's quite a lot, one thing that you've taken in particular from Team Sky, Team Ineos, that you're putting into practice now with your new team? And what's one thing that is completely different that you're quite happy to have left behind?
Good question. I think that's one thing I said to myself at the start is if I go from Ineos to Decathlon AG2R, I don't really want to take across that much. It's his own team, with his own history, with his own way of doing things. And I think, there's things that needs to be tweaked and adapted. But what I never want to do is say, Ineos do it like this, Ineos do it like that, because who says Ineos is doing it the best way possible anyway? I'd say they're failing in a lot of areas at the moment. So if you take things over, I don't think they're the best things in the world. So I haven't taken across much. I've just tried to, first of all, learn the team, get to know the riders, the staff, integrate myself, and there's changes that need to be made, but they're not necessarily things that should be copied from any other team, let alone Ineos. And then things I've left behind, I would say, a lot of teams refer to themselves, this is the family, and I never really bought that. I think we're a cycling team, we're a professional cycling team, and you're working with colleagues. Yeah, you've got some friends in the team, but it was never a family. My family's at home. But you do see a bigger bond and a glimpse of that at AG2R, and many of the staff have been there. We've got staff who've been there 25 years, and it is their family. So it's quite a nice working environment.
Have you shown them any secret skills or not so secret skills? We hear you can chin a pint rather quickly. Has any of that come out in any team camps?
No, the get together in October was quite mellow. I thought they'd go full gas, but it was quite mellow. So I haven't been able to showcase my ability to down a pint quite quickly. But keep it in the locker for when the time's right.
Have we got the clock on that? What's your record?
Yeah, I know you're referring to somewhere. Said, tell me something interesting about yourself, and I was scratching my head. So I said I can neck a pint in 3.2 seconds. I haven't really timed myself, but I reckon I'm somewhere in that ballpark. I don't really think it's something to be particularly proud of, but
impressive nonetheless.
Yeah.
Brad, any skills in your locker? You're an amazing mimic.
I was going to say something else then, but it's not for the cafe.
Not for the cafe. Right.
We'll do one step on from drinking.
We'll do a post-watershed cafe aficionado. On the cafe, we should ask Luke the question that we ask all of our guests on their way out the door, which is, Luke, do you have a favourite cafe, favourite cafe ride, and what is your order when you get there?
Great question. I'd say it was when I was living down in the south of France. You'd always stick to the coast on the recovery rides, not into the mountains. So I think any ride along the coast is nice. Any ride where you can look left or right and see the sea or ocean has got to be up there. So probably just a little spin down to Nice or something. And on a recovery day, I'd often wake up, not have breakfast, ride there, and then have breakfast at the cafe. So you'd have there was a mixed breakfast, with a croissant and some cereal, some baguette with jam and butter, and a coffee and orange juice, something like that.
And a panini. I hear there's a Luke Rowe panini still on offer somewhere.
Yeah, that was the last few years of my career. There was this one cafe I always used to go to, and I went there that often. I got to know the guy quite well, Italian guy, lovely bloke. And the sandwich I wanted, you could just say, what do you want? And he just make it fresh for you. And I had this sandwich every time, and then he called it up. I turned up, and he'd already started making it as soon as he made eye contact. And I've left the area now, and he's named it on the board, Luke Rowe Panini.
Nice.
Have you ever had a sandwich named after you?
No.
Selfless. And the other question that kind of folds into this one is, what keeps you in love with cycling, Luke?
The whole package. I love it. I think it's the best sport in the world. It's got so many different angles to it. Every race has got its own unique characteristics. Every rider's got the opportunity to express themselves in any way they want. You spoke about Panache and Julian Alaphilippe, guys like this. Pure entertainment, the brutality of the sport. I think it's the toughest sport by far in the world. So there's not one thing. It's just the whole package. I think it's beautiful. You go through extreme highs, extreme lows. As a team, you go through them together. So, to pinpoint one thing is tough, but I love everything about it.
Brilliant.
Well, Luke, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
A quick call for the socials before we go. Hit us up wherever you get your podcasts. First of all, watch us on YouTube at Sir Brad's Cafe, and join us on all the usual social media platforms, also at Sir Brad's Cafe. That's it for this episode. And Luke Rowe. Luke, thank you again.
Mate. You're a star.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with everything going forward. Thank you to Luke. Thank you to Graham. That's another episode of Cafe Aficionado. Tune in again.